Well, the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, will announce the outcome of the National Senior Certificate Examinations on the 19th of January. The candidates will be able to access their results the next day. Let's talk more on this then. We are now joined via Zoom by the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, Mr. Mhlanga. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Flo.
Let's talk about the readiness then to release these Matric results. I mean, I also want to talk about any problems leading up to release. You know, often we find that there are problems, there are glitches. And perhaps you can take us back. Have there been problems during the Matric, as the Matrics were sitting down to write their exams? I know often we hear about cheating scandals, papers being leaked and so forth. It seems as though it's been quite on that front. Has it been as smooth as it has been perceived this time around?
Well, Flo, at the start of the exam, we had some issues with the load shedding, which disturbed some of our examinations. And then we had problems with community protests. You recall that in Mhlanga, the residents there blocked the N4 and it became a violent protest, which blocked about 6 schools and prevented them from writing the exams, which had to be rewritten at the end of the exam. Something that we don't generally do, but we had to do that because of those disruptions that took place. But after that, we didn't see any incidents. Marking commenced on the 10th and completed on the 22nd. It's been capturing and processing since then, and all is on track.
There have been questions then around, results being released, what's being called late, in the month. I know in my day, they were released around December. Does this then not, have an effect then when we're talking about registrations at, institutions of higher learning, or perhaps those who want to go into other work or travel or take a gap year? I mean, this would then have an effect. Does the department bear that in mind?
See, Flo, the truth of the matter is that the impact of COVID is still with us. You'll recall that the system started school late last year in January because of COVID, which was an overflow from 2021. So that week, that week's delay affected everything that we do in the sector. We started school late. The final grade 12 exams also started late. So everything was pushed back by a week. So we've had to work in that environment. So it was not by choice that the date has been set for the 19th for minister to announce and results being accessible from the 20th. It's because of the impact of COVID, which literally comes from 2020. So you might look around you and think that things are normal. Yeah. But for us in the system as large as this one, we still are going through the negative impact of COVID-19, but next year going forward, we'll review the program as we go to the final stages of the recovery program in the sector.
Mr. Mhlanga, there's a group I haven't mentioned when I'm talking about registration. I mean, those going to tertiary institutions might perhaps start later, in the month or early February. But the other issue is those matriculants who perhaps don't make it, who don't pass, and in fact would want to then repeat Matric. How would that affect them? I mean, let's also not forget, the background of it all. The psychology now of having to understand that you're now having to repeat the grade. All of that, and then immediately having to then start. Is that something that the department does really sort of pay attention to?
We've paid attention to the impact of COVID in all aspects of the system. The issue of the repeaters, well, in the system, when you fail Matric, you don't go back to school. You write your exam again outside school. But the registration has been adjusted accordingly to accommodate those learners, so there will be no impact there. Insofar as the universities are concerned, the universities, we've spoken to them, and anyway, in the normal course of business, the universities are given the Matric results for all the candidates a few days before they're actually released, which means universities are able to access that information and start with the finalization of the admission processes. So there's no impact there either. And anyway, we have contacted them and we stay in touch with them in terms of the processes that are underway, but also the impact of COVID on us, which also affected them. You will recall that universities also started late in 2022.
All right. Thanks very much for speaking to us. We'll certainly, of course, be talking to you closer to the time when those results are then to be released. Thank you so much. That is the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, Mhlanga.